Before we dive into the blood-soaked madness of this 88 film slasher classic collection review, a quick heads up for listeners and viewers alike. These episodes come straight from the podcast Under the Stairs archives, recorded before the launch of the YouTube channel and long before video podcasts became part of the show. These reviews were originally crafted purely for audio. So if the production feels a little rougher around the edges or a little more stripped back than current episodes, that's because you're hearing the show in its earlier form, raw, passionate, and let's be honest, a little waffly at times. Whether you're revisiting these reviews or discovering them for the first time, please sit back and relax and enjoy this trip through the golden age of mass killers, inventive gore, and VH era nightmares. This podcast is not safe for work and will feature movie spoilers. It will feature scenes described of a graphic nature. It will contain language which most listeners may find offensive. Welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. Hi everyone and welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. This is your Sunday 88 films slasher classic collection of reviews. I'm your host Duncan. Welcome to the show. Upon this episode we're turning our attention to disc number 44 in the collection. Tantalisingly close to catching up completely with the season proper. Now, disc number 44 is 10 to Midnight, a Canon production featuring old Chuck Bronson and what can only be described as the most mismatched cast I've seen in a movie in a long time. I'm very much looking forward to chatting about this one after the first break. Before we get to that, let's catch up with where we are under the stairs. So yeah, this was supposed to be a 4-episode week. There was supposed to be an episode out yesterday, and I will be honest with you ladies and gents, I sat down and I watched Switchblade Sisters, which came in as part of a screener, and it will be released as a separate episode somewhere down the line, just not this week. The reason behind it is there was quite a lot to unpack, actually, specifically in the special features, that it's the kind of movie that actually feels like I could do justice with in a longer form review moving forward, maybe linking up some movies by either Jack Hill or genre specific around it, and make a kind of longer form episode with a guest, which would be fun for me. So that's the reason that didn't happen yesterday. It gave me a rare chance of a night off from podcasting, which felt a bit weird, and I didn't feel guilty at all. Well, I did a little bit, but I didn't feel guilty at all, ladies and gents. So yeah, that's the only change for this week. This is the final episode. We're kicking into a brand new week of podcasting starting tomorrow, with a little bit of Irreverence dropping in your feeds tomorrow evening. I am very much looking forward to bringing that series back. I put a pause in the old box set series that we've been doing in order to bring back a one-off Irreverence, and keep your eyes peeled because towards the end of this month we're going to start dropping some Russian Roulette franchise retro stuff. This month we are looking at Urban Legend with 3 phenomenal guests and 3 movies to discuss. So yeah, that is on the horizon for you peeps out there. Now, the Teapots Collective are dropping tomorrow. You are getting the kind of introduction to season 4 of Chronicle, although the season proper won't start probably for another couple of months after that, maybe a month and a half to 2 months. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. Important information and an opportunity for you, that's right, you, the listener, to get involved with that season. Very much looking forward to bringing that back. Jaws is Shite and Other Regrettable Outbursts is recording this Wednesday, which means you have a couple of days left to get your regrettable stories into the pod. You can do that by emailing regrettablepod@gmail.com. As long as they're in before Wednesday, they will be covered on the show, and that episode will drop proper. So episode number 4 are we at now, which feels bizarre, but episode number 4 of that show will be dropping into your feeds this coming Friday. And that is us all caught up, ladies and gents, so let's take a short break just now. You're going to hear promos for shows that I love. You're going to hear the trailer for 10 to Midnight as this number 44 in the Slasher Classic Collection. Another movie which we're going to have to bring up that age-old debate. Is this movie actually a slasher? ? You'll find out my thoughts on that after promos for shows that I love, the trailer for the movie, and I'm going to be right back right after this.
Want to learn more about horror directors? With a lighthearted look at 3 of their movies? Meet fearless podcaster Gore Blimey.
I've been unsettled by bats in the past and startled by parrots, and I've even been known to jump at the odd cockatoo.
Discover horror films that are classics, and others, too.
There's a topless aerobics massacre, an exploding rock singer, cannibals, nude martial arts, a deep-fried prostitute.
But it's not all silliness. You'll get proper movie breakdowns, opinion, and background information, too.
Yep, in the 80s and 90s, Jeff Stryker was huge in gay porn. In every sense.
So if you're a horror film fan, come and check out the Trilogy of Terror podcast at strangeanddeadly.com, or find it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or on your podcatcher.
One of those people that has a certain charisma and a certain style, and I'm just hoping one day he'll rub off on me.
The Trilogy of Terror podcast, where we try 3 times harder to give you the willies.
A sensational crime. An airtight alibi.
We can't lay a finger on this guy.
And a chain of evidence.
Bring him in.
Charles Bronson is a cop looking for a killer, and he's running out of time.
Go ahead, take me in. You can't punish me.
When the guilty go free, the system is the crime.
I'm a mean, selfish son of a bitch. But I want to kill her, and what I want comes first.
Well, how come I've never heard him mention a daughter?
It seldom crosses his mind that he has one.
He's one angry man with someone to protect.
How long are you with your father?
He can make a difference.
You like hurting girls?
I won't answer that.
Girls won't have anything to do with you, but you get back at them, don't you?
I won't listen to your filth. Gotta remind you about evidence obtained under duress. It's inadmissible, Leo.
We got no evidence that we can't hold this kid.
He's our man, Captain. I'm gonna get him. Found some blood.
He's lying. There was no blood on my clothes, and he knows it. How do you play, Warren?
Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
The last thing I want to do is get involved with a cop.
Well, I don't blame you. Leo, I went back to the lab and I talked to the technician. And I asked him if you...
Why didn't you ask me?
True, Lieutenant. You planted the evidence.
You know why. We could nail him sooner or later.
After counting how many more dead.
He had to be stopped. Forget what's legal, do what's right.
After all the evidence is in, he'll reach his own verdict and execute the sentence by the deadline when there is no justice. This man is the law. 10 to Midnight. Charles Bronson, Lisa Eilbacher, and Andrew Stevens in a Golan Globus production of a J. Lee Thompson film. 10 to Midnight.
And welcome back, ladies and gents. We've just had the trailer for 10 to Midnight. This is disc number 44 in the collection. The details, as listed on the 88 Films website, is Charles Bronson is a hero all the way as a rogue cop pursuing a deranged killer in this action-packed suspense thriller. Serving up vigilante justice as only he can, Bronson delivers one of his most riveting performances in this exceedingly well-made film. Bronson plays Leo Kessler, a cynical Los Angeles cop on the trail of Warren Stacy, played by Gene Davis, a homicidal maniac who turns rejection from beautiful women into the ultimate revenge. When the legal system sets Stacy free, Kessler plants evidence to put him behind bars for good. But Kessler's plans backfire, leaving him with only one option: to hunt down Stacy on his own before the crazed killer strikes again. Special features on this release were a limited edition slipcase of up to 3,000. I believe they are still available. Limited edition collection of 4 collectible postcards for the first 3,000. Once again, I believe that's still available. A new 4K transfer, remastered original mono audio, optional English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, audio commentary with author and Charles Bronson expert Paul Talbot, producing Bronson, an interview with producer Lance Hull, remembering Bronson, interview with actor Robert F. Lyons, Knife and Death, interview with actress Gina Thomasina, I think is how you pronounce that, Charlie's Partner, interview with actor Andrew Stevens, Cop Sleaze, Mike Malloy discusses sleazy cops in films, a stills gallery, radio spots, and original trailer. The technical specs: this is region locked to region B, picture format is HD 185.1, audio format is DTS HDMA mono, language is English, subtitles English, certification 18, and the runtime on this movie is just a ball hair, and there's plenty of them in this movie, over an hour and 40 minutes. So, 10 at midnight, where to begin with this one? So weirdly, I actually thought maybe even 10 minutes into this movie I'd seen it before, and then as it kind of furthered along its plot, I realised I hadn't. I will say I actually quite enjoyed this, if I'm honest. There is a part of me that pines for that kind of 80s canon sleaze, specifically in cop movies from the 80s, specifically Charles Bronson movies. He's not a great actor, I don't care what anyone says. He plays the same role in pretty much every movie in the 1980s, and he's doing that again here. And it is so bizarrely cast. Jeffrey Lewis is in this movie. That's well, you know Jeffrey Lewis if you've watched a lot of movies from the 60s, 70s and 80s. If you watch the Every Which Way You Can or Every Which Way You Lose, he is Clint Eastwood's buddy. He was in Devil's Rejects. He's in Salem's Law. He's he's kind of famously Juliette Lewis's dad. He's in this as a kind of sleazy lawyer. Wilford fucking Brimley is in this movie as the chief of police. It just so bizarrely cast. It is kind of weird. Like, all these faces started appearing and I was like, wait a fucking second, I know you. And it just goes to show that back in the day in the 80s, like, canon had a lot of money to throw about and a lot of actors had a lot of spare time to do it. I mean, the movie itself is surprisingly forward-thinking in the way it handles this. In general, it has... The modus operandi here is we have a killer that we know is the killer from the start. And instead of your classic trauma that you have following a killer's like childhood upbringing, this guy basically is a bit deranged, and although we'll get into what the class has been deranged and then we'll pivot that into the world of 2021, which did make me laugh. Like, there's a scene where Chuck Bronson produces a kind of homemade fleshlight and starts waving it at him, calling him a pervert, and all I could think is, if that makes him a pervert, then I need to be burned on obscenity. If that thing sets you over, then trust me, I'm 2 steps away from fucking Satan. But yeah, so we have Gene Davis, who plays this guy Warden Stacy, who is kind of unhinged right from the start. Basically, he makes advances at women, creepily, it's worth saying, and if he's rejected, he ultimately murders them. On top of that as well, he is a very kind of smart killer in that he understands for the time that he can't, DNA, fingerprints, all the rest. So he kills these women nude. And boy, does he ever kill them nude. There is a lot of penis in this movie. Like, a whole hell of a lot. Which, I've said many times, I have absolutely zero fucking issues with. If you're going to give me tits and vagina in a movie, then you may as well give me penis. I think it evens things out. And I will say the amount of times I saw Gene Davis's cock in this movie is probably on par with the amount of tits that I saw in this movie. So fair play to them being a bit forward thinking, that sort of stuff. I weirdly appreciate that happening on screen. But it has a real kind of American Psycho feel. There are scenes actually in this that feel like American Psycho ripped them off completely, with our kind of our Warden Stacy killer covered in blood chasing people down like a corridor and like hanging over a set of stairs, and it just kind of it surprised me that I've never heard this movie mentioned in connection with certain setups and shots. There's a very kind of there's a more deranged Patrick Bateman feel about him, but he's a very savvy killer. He's like very, very smart, and it's one of the reasons he's never been able to get caught before, until he gets on the radar of Chuck Bronson, who is this cop he's like a super cop, but time has taken its toll on him, and when it looks like Warren Stacy might get out from underneath this like inevitable investigation, he takes a shortcut, and everyone like admits this guy's the killer, but he's going to take a shortcut. He plants some blood evidence, and unfortunately his new partner is a goody two shoes and won't let it stand. So Kessler gets out, not Kessler, Stacy gets out from this high kind of publicized court case, free man, and Kessler, played by our buddy Chuck Bronson, is having fucking none of it, and he continues to make his life a living hell. We've seen this sort of movie before, we've seen this sort of setup before, but yeah, it surprised me by just how kind of gnarly it got for the time period specifically. This is not a movie that I'm fully aware of, and it is 1983, so this is the height of the slasher, and it kind of plays with the idea of, well, here is a slasher killer, except he's not going to wear a mask. We're going to know who he is. In fact, he's not going to wear fucking anything. We're going to know who he is, and we're going to try and watch a police officer bring him down. Now, it kind of threw up that conversation, because it has a lot of elements that makes this a slasher, like specifically makes it a slasher, but it's not a horror movie by any stretch of the imagination. This is a cop thriller at the most. So it got me wondering, can you have a slasher movie that isn't a horror movie? And I really started racking my brain. We just assume that slasher movies are horror movies, and it kind of got me thinking, and I know you're playing bingo at home, so get ready to take that shot. Giallos are classed as horror movies, and a lot of the time they're actually not horror movies, they are kind of crime thrillers. So if it's okay in Italian cinema, is it okay in American cinema? Can you have a slasher which is not a horror movie? And I'm going to kind of say this might be the movie to kind of push that forward. There's a lot of movies in the 90s where they're trying to distance what they're doing in the genre from what they're trying to make. Like movies like Copycat, for example, are a great example of that. Copycat, the filmmakers don't class it as a horror movie. Critics at the time didn't class it as a horror movie, but by every metric that we know, we would probably class it as a horror movie. Even now, I look back at that movie and say, well, it's a kind of cat and mouse sort of horror thriller. So, but horror's in there for me. And I kind of think 10 to Midnight is almost a precursor to that, weirdly. It feels very much ahead of its time, even though it's riddled with, tropes, and, it's ticking off a ton of the kind of slasher elements. It's kind of cliche, to be sure. It made me wonder, what do we have here? It is a very well made movie. The print, first and foremost, the 4K transfer is lush, and it's well made and it's well acted. The score's good. I like Gene Davis as a killer. I think he plays it so over the top and so maniacal, and he has this sort of kind of almost, I was going to say split personality, but it's not a split personality. He just has this mania behind his eyes that I think works really, really well. It's a shame, even though I like Charles Bronson in this, that Bronson's the guy that's going to try and bring him down. Because there is this sort of... Bronson never looks like he's at any point worried are breaking a sweat in this performance, and a lot of it's kind of dialed in, and it kind of works because it's Charles Bronson, but at the same time I kind of felt when I was watching it I expected a bit more. Like a bit more kind of, his daughter's put in peril in this movie, and I expected something more, you know, gripping, something more timely and delivered, and it's not in this movie. And I mean, that's fine for what it is. Like I say, as canon movies go, this is surprisingly well done, considering canon are behind some of those Death Wish sequels. This is a surprisingly well contained movie. Like I say, there are moments in it though that are just fucking ludicrous. They like pictures of like pornographic pictures and a makeshift fleshlight are pretty much the evidence that Chuck Bronson believes, you know, solidifies the case that this guy is a killer. And like I said before, if owning a sex toy and looking at some cheap nasty porn makes you a killer, then we're all fucking murderers. It made me laugh. It made me laugh quite a bit. The ending of this movie. So I'm gonna assume if you're listening, you're happy to have it spoiled. This movie did come out in 1983, so it is almost 40 years old. The ending of the movie though is the thing that kind of made me go, holy shit, because this ends with Bronson essentially killing the suspect as a citizen. So he's no longer a police officer, while he wasn't resisting arrest and wasn't trying to attack him. And I think the end of this movie is, the way it looks, Bronson's going to prison. Like, and I kind of thought that was, I kind of liked that, because he, like, for all his intentions were just in planting the evidence, he still broke the fucking law, and that kind of taking the law into your own hands is something I think should be punishable. So the way it ended on this sobering moment, I kind of thought, whoa. But then the music is all like, you know, it's all happy. The camera's panning out as it looks like Bronson's going to go to jail and likely become the maniac cop. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a really weird one. I enjoyed it though. I had a blast with this movie. I like genuinely was smiling through most of it. This is the first in a while where one of these movies for the Slasher Classic Collections popped up that I didn't genuinely grimace or feel the need to lift my phone. I was in this all the way through. Yeah, it's cheesy. Yeah, you've seen this movie 100 times before. But there's something kind of charming about it. And it gave me tons of cock, which, I mean, that's almost a star in itself. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I really liked this movie. I thought it had a lot of merit. It's one of these ones I would definitely recommend. It's totally not a horror movie, but it kind of is a slasher movie, which, like I say, is a weird position to be in. So yeah, a 4 out of 5 for 10 to Midnight. I'm going to take my final break. When I come back, I'll be letting you know what disc number 45 is in the collection, when we will be getting to it. I'll be doing all that right after this. And you've been listening to the podcast Under the Stairs. Ladies and gents, this has been your Sunday 88 Films Slasher Classic series of reviews. We've been looking at disc number 44, 10 to Midnight. In 3 weeks' time, we'll be moving on to disc number 45, which is Moon in Scorpio from 1987. Never heard of this one. The blurb says, in a Los Angeles marina, 3 bodies who fought together in Vietnam, Alan, played by John Philip Law, Bert, played by William Smith, and Mark, played by Louis Van Bergen, and their wives set sail on a cruise. Well, obviously don't get the cast for their wives, that feels a bit snidey. Their first reunion since the war. All 3 men are haunted by nightmares of a bloody wartime massacre they took part in, killing everyone in sight. Men, women, and children. The tension between the men is thick enough to cut with a knife. Before long, anxiety turns to blow-chilling horror as first one, then another passenger on the cruise is mysteriously and gruesomely murdered. Adrift on the open sea with no help in sight, the terrified survivors must fight for survival against an unseen, bloodthirsty killer who has turned their worst nightmare into deadly reality. This one is limited to 3,000 with the slipcase, limited edition poster, limited to 3,000, limited edition booklet notes, limited to 3,000. It has a high definition transfer, remastered original mono audio, optional English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, audio commentary by co-producer Fred Olin Ray, audio commentary with the Hysteria Continues, the slasher loving podcast, Deep from the Schlock Pit, audio commentary by film journalist Matty Bruderitz and Dave Wayne, and the original trailer. Technical specs, this is region locked to region B. Picture format is HD 185.1. Audio format is DTS HD MA mono. Language is English, subtitles English. Certification 15. Run time 1 hour 30 minutes. This looks shit, I'll be honest with you. I'm looking forward to being proved wrong, but I'm going in already expecting a bit of gash, so we'll wait and see how this turns out. There's a multitude of ways to check out podcasts Under the Stairs wherever you're listening to us right now. Hit subscribe, that way you get the shows as and when they drop, and access to the entire back catalogue of over 900 episodes. That's right, we just tipped over that 900 mark. 900 fucking episodes, Jesus Christ. You know, if I'd taken up anything else, I would be an expert in it by now. If I'd taken the time that I've been recording these podcasts and actually put it into learning guitar, I could be badass right now. Anyway, yeah, 900 strong over there. Subscribe to the Teapots Collective, that's the sister feed. That way you get shows like Where to Begin With, Opera Omnia, Doing the Nasty, and Chronicle. So yeah, subscribing to both those feeds, best way to support what I do. You can jump across to the website, which is tputscast.com, where you'll get links to all those shows. You'll also get links to Jaws is Shite and Other Regrettable Outbursts, the booze-based banter podcast with myself, the Baz, and Scott and Liam versus Evil. As we get drunk, we read about news that is weird. We talk about bad life choices, of which there's an abundance. We read your weird and sometimes embarrassing stories on air when you submit them. And yeah, it's a ton of fun. You should check it out. The next episode will be dropping next Friday. Episode number 4 is monthly. So you can get that all through tputscast.com. The merch page is tputscast.bigcartel.com. Facebook.com/groups/tputscast is the Podcast Under the Stairs Facebook page. Facebook.com/tputscast is the Teapots Collective Facebook page. And then Facebook.com/groups/regrettablepod is Jaws is Shite and Other Regrettable Outbursts Facebook page. You can reach out and interact with myself and the Baz on the twin prongs of social media sexiness. Instagram and Twitter both can be followed at TPutsCast. The Podcast Under the Stairs returns tomorrow with In Reverence. Oh, we haven't done one of these in a while, and I'm looking forward to coming back and doing one for you. So until then, wherever you are, what the time zone is and what you're up to in this big bad world of ours, please take care of yourselves out there. This is Duncan McLeish broadcasting live from Under the Stairs, and I am signing off.